Today's video is sponsored by nobody. I paid for that myself. Well, if some of you actually guessed what that was at the beginning of the video, if you guessed a blow-off valve, you're right. This is a blow-off valve kit from RPM. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to install this on the base model, 2023 base model, X3 Maverick DS. So let's just take a look at what's in the kit. I mean, this is going to be a real basic install video. Yeah, so we'll just go through what the kit entails here. So that's new charge tube, so nicely branded RPM. I like, first of all, when you're dealing with anything internal on the motor, you want to make sure it's clean. So it's nice to see that this piece that comes separately in the box when they ship it is wrapped in plastic. So that's actually really nice to see. So in the box, what you're going to find, again, this is for a base model. So your charge tube, if you have a turbo or a turbo RR, is going to look a little bit different because I don't have an intercooler on the top of that. So the other charge tubes for those motors, you're going to find a little bit twisted different because it has to clear that intercooler. So yeah, we've got the blow-off valve itself. Very nicely designed. Aluminum housing, I'm guessing. But you know what, when I was looking at different types of kits out there, this is what really sold me on this kit. Keep that covered in plastic there. It's a serviceable piece, and it's serviceable by you. You don't have to take it into anywhere or return it to RPM Cycles unless there's a major problem. And they give you a service kit. I can't tell you how many times I buy something nowadays and it doesn't come with, you know, a spare O-ring. These are all serviceable parts on this unit and on this kit. Comes a little thing of tie zip, which I'm assuming is just kind of like a silicone lubricant. A couple zip ties, new O-rings to replace the O-rings that are in here. You know, some seals. Also in the kit comes with the hose. One end goes to your plenum. One end goes to the vacuum side of your blow-off valve. Comes with a plug. That's interesting too. So if you don't want to run your blow-off valve, you can plug it up. This also uses for checking vacuum leaks in case you had one, or excuse me, leaks in the charge tube. Comes with a filter and a filter cover, which is like water-resistant filter cover. Again, branded RPM. That's nice to see. Makes it look nicer. Makes it look nice. A couple clamps, 1 and 2, and a couple springs. So I did watch the video on how to install this and what everything does in this kit. I'm assuming, I'll have to double check, I'm assuming, but because this is a base model kit, it's probably outfitted with the light spring from the factory. And then there's a medium and a heavy spring in here. All the spring does is change how the blow-off valve sounds. So we'll try it with what they sent from factory, see how that sounds. If I'm not satisfied, we'll change out the springs. But, man, that's a complete kit. Now, obviously, I paid more because I'm Canadian. So I paid duty on top of it. I paid shipping on top of it, and shipping was expensive. You know, shipping basically was a third of the cost of this unit in order to get it here. So, you know, it'd be nice. I haven't really found any East Coast RPM dealers for this kit, so I ordered it straight from the website. But anyway, question is, why do you need a blow-off valve? Well, and that's for me pretty much the only reason. It sounds cool. I like the sound of a blow-off valve when I lift my foot off the throttle. So this machine, this X3, is getting a blow-off valve. Let's get into it. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull out this center panel that just pops out of there. Just grab the hold of that, and it's just in there with plastic and rubber grommets. So we're going to pull that out, pop that out. Next thing we got to do is we got to get access to two bolts that are in behind here. 1, 2 in behind that panel that actually help lift out this piece here, which normally if you have an intercooled machine would be underneath this. And as you can see, it's just plastic in there. I don't have an intercooler. To get at that, we just got to lift up that as well here too. So I'm just going to do that right now, and we'll get access to our turbo. Okay, and as you can see, this is the charge tube that we need to remove. This is the stock one. So there's your turbocharger, and then here's your throttle body down here. So we need to remove both clamps, 1 and 2, and we're going to pull that charge tube right out of there. I'm just going to make sure everything's nice and clean. So I'm going to get some compressed air and just blow in around here, make sure that nothing's going to fall in there, either in the turbo side or the intake side. Then we're going to remove that tube. And then as you can see, this one's going to go right in its place. So, and the orientation of the blow-off valve is going to be up a little bit, and then we're going to be orientating the blow-off valve itself to point down just slightly, and I'll show you that here once we get this tube switched over. Okay, so we got the new charge tube on. Don't forget to tighten down your clamps. I'm not quite sure if there's a specific torque. I use about 1/4 ugga-dugga because I don't want them to come off. Obviously that charge tube is under some pressure with the PSI that the turbocharger is making. You want to make sure that the band clamps are even around both where it goes into the intake and where it goes into the turbocharger. I'm going to make sure it's not on there crooked, and that hose is seated nice. Obviously, I did this, left the plastic on that blow-off valve port so that it didn't drop any dirt or anything like that in there. So we are ready to actually put the blow-off valve on now. So I'm going to take that off like so, and I might end up having to loosen that clamp because that feels a little tight. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to loosen that clamp. All right, so the way that we're going to orientate this blow-off valve, this is the blow-off portion of the blow-off valve. This is the blow-out portion of the blow-off valve. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that in there like that, and we're going to aim it, not necessarily all the way up, but we want it, you know, down a little bit. I am going to be using the filter for this. So when I'm going to put that filter on, it's just in a second here, but I'm going to get this band clamp tightened down, and then I'm going to show you where to be running your vacuum line. All right, so we have our blow-off valve installed. Band is tight on our filter. You don't have to run this filter. This is not an intake filter by any means. This is just an exhaust filter. Just adds a little bit more of a level of protection to make sure that nothing absolutely goes in there. However, it is not necessarily to run. Every time this blow-off valve works, it blows out, not in. So just keep that in mind. Another great big thing about RPM blow-off valve kit that I really like is this swivels. So it just helps you orientate your vacuum line, which is we're going to be installing that next. So our vacuum line goes from this nipple here down to our intake plenum. On the intake plenum, you are going to find over the right-hand side or passenger side, focus, you're going to find this little port right here. So this port needs to be taken out. Of course, it's a T30 probably. So just you're going to have to remove that, and then that little plate is actually going to pop up, and it's going to allow that port to be open. So that port, when open, is going to accommodate this piece right here, which is metal, by the way, not plastic. Wonderful. Like to see that. So I'm going to run the intake from the bottom up to the top because this hose is cut to length. So if it's too long, just cut it. But I'm going to get that started here, and I'll show you exactly what we're doing. All right, so we got our T30 out of the intake plenum. This little plate is right here. It's what needs to come out, and it won't focus. There. That's your plate. So I don't know if I can get that with my hands. Sometimes you're going to need a piece or a screwdriver or something. Ah, I got it. It's right there. That's the plug. So we're going to be replacing that with the plenum side vacuum line. Also, just a quick note, I'm going to use a little bit of this Tie-Zip lubricant silicone to put right on the O-ring for the vacuum line going into the intake plenum. Just make it a little bit easier because that's a dry O-ring. So just a little tip, make sure you do that or else you'll be fighting it, and you don't want that O-ring rolling up or rolling off or anything like that, or, you know, because that's going to create your positive air seal. And with that vacuum line now on, we've just completed the install of the RPM blow-off valve kit for the base model Maverick X3 DS. So again, base model being the 120 and the 2023, which this is 135. So I'm going to do some reassembly here, and we'll get her out on the road, and we will see what it sounds like.